When Taehyung turned to Jungkook, the look on his face said everything. No one was ready for the words that came out of his mouth next. The crowd was roaring, lights flashing, and yet, in that very moment, Taehyung wasn't looking at the audience, he was looking at Jungkook. There was something in his eyes, a mix of pride, sadness, and something unspoken. Jungkook smiled, trying to hide the nervous tremble in his hands. He didn't know it yet, but this would be the last time Taehyung would look at him that way. For a moment, everything else faded. It was just the two of them, standing under the same light, but feeling completely different emotions. Behind every smile they shared on stage were years of laughter, tears, and unspoken words. Taehyung remembered the nights they stayed up talking about dreams, and the promises they made when no one was watching. But now, the air felt heavy. Jungkook could sense something was wrong, something that words couldn't explain. Their bond, once full of warmth, was suddenly surrounded by silence, the kind that feels louder than any scream. As the last note of the concert echoed, Taehyung took a deep breath. His voice cracked slightly as he began to speak. "There's something I've been wanting to say." The audience went silent. Jungkook turned toward him, confusion in his eyes. Taehyung smiled, that same soft, heartbreaking smile that hides more pain than it shows. "No matter what happens next, remember that you've always been my greatest comfort, and my greatest pain." Jungkook froze. His eyes glistened, his lips trembled, because he knew this wasn't just another speech. It was a goodbye. The cheers came back, but Jungkook didn't hear them. His eyes stayed fixed on Taehyung, trying to read the emotion behind those final words. Was this the end of something beautiful? Or the start of something they weren't ready to face? Taehyung looked down, avoiding Jungkook's gaze, because if he looked for 1 second longer, he would break completely. The stage lights dimmed, but the weight of that moment stayed in everyone's hearts. Later that night, Jungkook sat alone backstage, still hearing Taehyung's voice echoing in his mind. He wanted to run to him, to ask why, to say don't go, but sometimes, love doesn't end with words. It ends in silence, in the way two people look at each other for the last time, knowing nothing will ever be the same again, and that's exactly what Taehyung's eyes said that night, goodbye, without saying goodbye. Days passed, but that moment wouldn't fade. Jungkook replayed it in his mind, the trembling in Taehyung's voice, the tears he tried to hide. He could still feel it, the weight of those unspoken words pressing on his chest. Every message left unanswered, every laugh that ended too soon. All of it made sense now. Taehyung wasn't just saying goodbye to the fans, he was saying goodbye to him. Late one night, Jungkook found himself holding his phone, scrolling through old photos, the memories they once promised to keep forever. He typed out a message, "Hyung, why didn't you tell me sooner?" But he never sent it. He just stared at the screen, waiting for a reply that would never come. Across the city, Taehyung was looking at the same moon, whispering Jungkook's name under his breath, knowing he could never explain the truth, not now, not anymore. Their next performance felt different. They smiled for the cameras, joked like nothing had changed, but the distance between them said everything. Jungkook tried to meet Taehyung's eyes, but Taehyung looked away. Because if he didn't, the pain would spill out in front of millions. Sometimes, silence is the only way to protect the people you love, even if it destroys you inside. After the show, Taehyung slipped away quietly. No words, no hugs, just one final look from across the hallway. Jungkook stood frozen, eyes locked with his, and in that silent exchange, they both said everything they couldn't speak aloud. "Thank you for everything. I'll miss you. I'm sorry." It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud. It was quiet, raw, and heartbreakingly real. Weeks turned into months, and fans still talked about that night, that look, that moment, that silence. But only Jungkook knew what it truly meant. He carried it with him, in every lyric, every melody, every tear that fell when no one was watching. Because some stories don't end, they just live quietly inside two hearts that once beat as one. And for Taehyung and Jungkook, that moment wasn't just the end. It was the beginning of forever. In silence, Taehyung sat alone in his room, the city lights flickering outside the window. In his hands, a piece of paper, already crumpled from trembling fingers. He wrote slowly, carefully, afraid of what each word might mean. "If one day you find this, please know. I didn't walk away because I stopped caring. I walked away because I cared too much." He folded the letter, placed it inside his notebook, and whispered, "Maybe someday, you'll understand." When Jungkook sang alone, his voice carried something different now, a quiet ache. Fans thought it was just emotion, but it was more than that. Every note, every lyric, was a message only one person could understand. And sometimes, Taehyung would stand backstage, eyes glistening, mouthing the words he once helped Jungkook write. Point two souls speaking through melodies, without ever speaking again. One night, after a long recording session, Jungkook stepped outside into the rain. He lifted his face toward the sky, the cold drops mixing with tears he didn't mean to cry, and there, on his phone, he saw it, a message from Taehyung, just one line. "Are you doing okay?" He typed back, but stopped halfway, because sometimes, the answer doesn't matter. The silence between the words says it all. When they met again for a short reunion project, everything felt strange. They smiled, laughed, and posed for cameras, but behind the flashes, Jungkook saw the same eyes he'd fallen for years ago, only now, they looked tired. And when Taehyung smiled at him, it wasn't the same. It was the kind of smile you give when you're trying to hide the pain of remembering what you've lost. Taehyung had been working on a song, one he never showed anyone. Late one night, Jungkook stumbled upon it in the studio computer. The title, "If You Ever Hear This." He pressed play. The melody was hauntingly familiar, soft, slow, full of longing. Halfway through, Taehyung's voice cracked in the recording. "I wish I could sing this with you one last time." Jungkook couldn't hold back the tears. He knew exactly who that song was for. An old camera sat on Taehyung's desk, filled with photos from years ago, beach trips, studio nights, inside jokes. But one photo stood out, Jungkook laughing, Taehyung beside him, eyes full of light. He stared at it for a long time, whispering, "That version of us was the happiest I've ever been." At 3 a.m., Jungkook often found himself replaying old voice notes, Taehyung's laughter, the little hums he'd send while working on music. They felt alive, like echoes from a dream he never wanted to wake up from. He smiled, even as tears slipped down, because even in distance, Taehyung's voice still felt like home. There were rumors, stories from fans about tension, distance, change, but no one knew the truth. Behind the silence was not anger, it was heartbreak. Two people who once shared everything now stood in the same room, pretending not to notice each other, just to keep the world from breaking with them. Months later, fate brought them together again for a special event. When Taehyung saw Jungkook walk in, the world went quiet. Jungkook smiled softly. It wasn't the same smile from before, it was gentler, sadder. They hugged for the cameras, but that single moment, that brief touch, said everything. "I missed you." "I know." After the reunion, Taehyung disappeared again, traveling, healing, searching. In his old room, Jungkook found the notebook Taehyung used to carry. Inside it, the letter, the one Taehyung never sent. Jungkook read it over and over, every word cutting deeper than the last. "You were my calm. You were my chaos. You were everything." And for the first time, Jungkook realized, he had already said goodbye. He just didn't know it then.